So today I want to explore the idea that there are beings around us that are helping us. There are light beings around us that are helping us. And this idea has been something that has been growing on me lately. I guess when you come into spirituality, there's like a process of getting to know the different things that are usually talked about in spirituality. And all of a sudden, sometimes you come into the idea of light beings. And I want to talk to you in this episode today a little bit about how, for me, it's been something that I just heard of before to something that little by little with time, I've been feeling more connected to this idea and also to the beings that I believe are around us, helping us, around everybody. It's not like some people have them and some people don't. But at the same time, I want to explore how this feels to you guys, what it could mean to us as humanity, if this is true, because I'm not going to claim to have certainty on any of this. This is just, my own path, my own truth, and my own feelings. And I'm going to be expressing to you my connection to what I feel are these beings. But of course, you get to form your own opinions and your own feelings about this. So the first thing that I think really awoke me to the idea of beings that we cannot see but that are around us, and there's a specific thing about these beings, is that they're here to help us. And I'm not saying there might not be other beings that maybe are not here to help us, but I want to focus today on those beings that are here to help us. So the first big encounter I had with that is Abraham Hicks. If you don't know Abraham Hicks, they are a group of beings that are helping humanity through teaching about the law of attraction and about the nature of who we truly are, the fact that we are one with the universe, and that means that abundance and actually anything that we want is available to us at any moment. It's just that we have to get in touch with that. We have to understand and believe that we are that. And that's the trouble for humans, right? Is not being separated in the illusion that we're just this body and we're just these things that are happening to us and that we have no control over that. So I started getting into Abraham Hicks after somebody recommended them to me. And at the beginning, I was a little skeptical. Abraham Hicks is channeled through a lady called Esther Hicks. And I eventually, because of the nerd that I am, ended up going to read all of their books and watch all their seminars. And the amazing thing is they have so much content on YouTube. That's where I consumed a lot of the content. And it took me a while to realize that this lady was speaking, but that, the idea was that it wasn't her. It was actually Abraham. And in the book, she explains how she first had the encounter with them. It wasn't like from one day to another. She actually went to another medium who told her she was going to be a channeler and told her to meditate. And as she was meditating, she would start getting kind of these involuntary movements. And at first, they were spelling words with her nose, and then she goes on to the typewriter, and eventually she can channel now, like really quickly, like get in the zone, and then they basically talk through her. So the thing is that when I got in touch with Abraham Hicks, there's something when you become more spiritually attuned, when you start the journey to yourself and you start kind of shutting out the noise that's around you and you start getting in touch with the truth of who you are. I think that for everyone, something that happens that is amazing, that has been amazing to me to witness in myself, is that you start understanding that there's something that feels like truth. Whereas before, you would take the word of other people for what's true and not. Maybe you would rely on science for what's true and not. Now there's a feeling that you get when something is true, where you know it's true. And at least, let me say this, at least when I get that feeling, I know it's truth for myself. It feels like an absolute truth, but of course, I can only know my own truth. But I must say it doesn't happen with a lot of things. So a lot of the times you come in contact with information and you might like the information, it might sound true, it might sound useful, you might use it in your life. But I think it's the lesser times that you come in contact with something and you get this like deep feeling of, yes, this is truth. So that's what Abraham Hicks was for me. Oh my gosh, I'm getting like emotional. I don't know why. I guess because it's this feeling of truth. Abraham Hicks for me was the first time I started believing that healing was possible for me. And I think I'll go into healing from what in other episodes, because I do struggle with a chronic illness, which I'm much better now, but it's been a huge part of my life and still is. So definitely going to be sharing about that through these episodes. But Abraham Hicks really made me believe, made me understand that my illness was a cause of a spiritual disalignment, and that if I were to believe that I was healthy, if I were to believe that my body could heal itself, that could happen. And it's crazy because even knowing that as a truth, I'm still working on that. Like my healing path is believing that I am healed, or believing that my body can handle whatever, and that, I am okay. My body's okay. Excuse me. But I'm getting there. So feeling this truth and then hearing her story and hearing how Abraham, this being, what I thought first was a being that got in touch with her to channel to humanity, to help humanity. How cool is that? I found out they were like a group of beings. They call themselves that. I guess she goes into it sometimes. I don't have the words like right now, but she goes into it being like a family of beings that chose to help Earth in some way. So that was my first encounter with that idea, I think, where it was like really something more concrete, where I was given something to believe in. The second example I have of being in contact with this idea of beings that are helping us is the fact that throughout my spiritual journey, and again, I'll mention health because what really started my spiritual awakening was being thrown into a chronic illness, now known as chronic fatigue syndrome or myalgia encephalomyelitis, from one day to another, not being able to move much, having to quit my job because I wasn't able to do life. And I started, of course, searching for answers, searching for things, and it threw me into a spiritual path very quickly. But the thing is, I wasn't like very deliberately picking what to read. At the beginning I was, but then it was more of a flow of like books arriving to me, knowledge arriving to me, just like Abraham Hicks arrived to me. I watched the videos all the time, and then I picked up the books, and then I would find the next one and the next one, in a very intuitive way, finding different authors and books. And after a while, I realized there was a very, very clear pattern that what I was reading was mostly channeled books. And by channeled is what I mean is, a person on Earth that has some kind of experience where they are transmitting information that is not necessarily theirs, that someone is giving them information. So in the case of Esther, she's receiving information from the group Abraham, and she channels it to a bunch of people who, of course, also the fact that there's so many people around and interested and resonating so deeply with these messages, to me tells me something, right? So I was coming into contact with like a bunch of channeled books. Then something strange happened, and when I was in contact with one particular book, which honestly, like thinking back, even just the fact that I picked up this book is like weird because, I had like a Christian or Catholic raising actually. And I kind of diverted from religion quite early on. It turned me off. And I still, at the time when I picked up this book that I'm going to talk about now, was feeling a little adverse to it. But this book had everything to do with religion. I don't know. Oh, I heard about it because I had read Gabby Bernstein's, her first book. I forget what it's called. But she mentioned A Course in Miracles, which was what her book was based. The Universe Has Your Back. That's what Gabby's book is. And so she mentioned and basically based her whole book from A Course in Miracles. And the message really resonated with me again, and so I was like, okay, I want to look at this Course in Miracles thing. Like, what is this thing? It sounded intriguing to me. It called me in the gut, and so I went to it. Turns out, I read the story about it, and it's a lady in the 70s who was an atheist, by the way, and was a Columbia University psychology professor, if I'm not mistaken. And she also, from one day to another, started hearing a voice, and it told her to write. And she wrote down this huge book in this weird, like really old language, very like the Father and man, and like not in accordance to our times, but still with so much wealth of information and knowledge about source and who we are, and about how we can transcend the limitations in our physical reality and realize that we are gods. So when I started reading this book, it blew my mind, because even though it was written in this language, even though I felt like as I read word by word, I was not understanding, when I would get to the end of the page, I felt like I had downloaded something within me. And I just kept reading and reading. At the time, I was stretching a lot, and sometimes I do this, and I'll sit on the floor and I'll have my book or my computer and I'll read from it, but I'm also like kind of trying to sit straight and stretching. And that's when I started swaying. My body started having involuntary movements. And the truth is, I wasn't like freaked out or anything, because this is something that has been happening to me for a while. It's something that first started happening to me in deep meditation. And at the time, I was working with a spiritual guide that was helping me out through some rough times. And I asked her, because she was very knowledgeable in all of these things, and I asked her, I'm swaying from side to side. And she told me it was normal. She said it's when we get deep into our heart space that we feel the energy moving us, and it actually moves us. There's different explanations. I think there's an explanation about it being Kundalini, and they tell you that you should sit more still when that happens, or like try to calm it down. But honestly, what I discussed with my spiritual guide is that it was a good feeling. It felt like I was being guided in a way, and it's just like a circular motion. It's like something like this. If you're watching the video, it's just like a little circular motion, but still it's pretty crazy that it's a movement that I'm not doing. So I started receiving that movement while I was reading A Course in Miracles, and well, that was a very clear way of feeling this is truth. This is for me. This is truth. There's a message here. And again, I'm getting emotional. This is really crazy. So that was my second encounter, and A Course in Miracles is something that I haven't even finished yet, but I feel like it's going to be a big part of my life, maybe a big part of what I teach. So I guess stay tuned for that. The third thing that has warmed me up to this idea of light beings is actually something a lot more experience-based, a lot more first person. So my husband, Daniel, he is a hypnotherapist, and he is certified in a technique by Dolores Cannon. If you haven't heard of her, she's kind of a big deal in the hypnotherapy world, because she started doing regressions when nobody was doing life regressions, and even after that, she dared to go deeper and get to people's subconscious. She started talking to people's subconscious, but as she was talking to people's subconscious again and again and again, because she had so many clients, she realized, just a little bit sip of my tea, she realized that all of the time the subconscious would answer in a third person, and they would talk about the person lying on the bed doing the hypnosis session as a third person, as they need to do this. And it wasn't one time, it wasn't two times, it was like with all her clients. And so basically what she discovered, or what she teaches, what she believes, right, and her students maybe believe, is that when she reaches that point in the hypnosis, when she talks to the subconscious, she's actually talking to a group of beings, maybe the guides of the person that's there. I don't know if she's so specific to explain exactly who it is or what they are, but it's definitely feels like it's a group of beings. So I've done this hypnosis with my husband a couple times, and it's been a real trip. Honestly, that's what it's been. The hypnosis is you first go into a life regression, and then you go to talk to your subconscious. And every time, the both times that we went in, and you have all these questions, you get some very, very clear answers. Some answers that sometimes you're not expecting. And I think I'll have him on the show a little bit so we can talk a little bit more about the hypnosis, because people always have so many questions about it. But what I'll say is, when I got to talk to them and then listen to the recording, because you don't always remember all of the session, you feel like this big energy in the room where you're doing it, or also in the room when you're listening to the recording. You feel love. You feel so much love in the room, and not love in like the romantic way. It's like this pure, loving, warm energy. It feels like there's something there with you. And there were other little things, like when we did it, we were worried that our son was going to wake up, for example. And every time we've done it, it just feels like there's a protection there. Like, it's like, you guys go, you guys got this, you know, we got you. It just feels that way. So I wanted to end with a book I picked up lately. I really started getting into this, what I was talking to you in the beginning about, feeling like I'm already healed, and, you know, researching more about spontaneous remissions, because I know it's going to be super useful for me. And I came across this book, Life Alignment, by Philippa Lubbock. I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly. Philippa Lubbock. And I didn't know this book was something that just called me. I didn't know what it was going to be about. Turns out it's about a healing energy system that a man named Jeff channeled. I'm telling you guys, I am... like, it's like if I'm receiving this channeled information secondhand. I'm just going through all the channeled books. And if you told me your job for this year is to read all the channeled books in the world, I would be so happy. So I wanted to share a couple of just, you know, paragraphs and a sentence from this book, because I thought it was a good way to end and something nice to share. The first one talks a little bit about the new earth that we are creating, that I love to talk about, where we're getting over and past a lot of our limiting beliefs and limiting structures and limiting paradigms, and ascending our consciousness. So let me read this. It says, the philosophy. As Jeff's story shows, the team of light beings knows that we have reached a critical time in our evolution. There is an urgent need to counterbalance the disconnection, destruction, and suffering from poverty, illness, and mental cruelty so widespread within the human family. So it's this idea that, you know, these beings, they're like aware of our state as a humanity, and they're helping us get to the next level. The next level being, you know, ascension and getting rid of these things, this disconnect, poverty, illness, mental cruelty. And the second sentence I wanted to share with you is, yet, as we shall see throughout these pages, we are never alone. As we progress along our life path, intent on changing our lives, there's a world of invisible, loving beings to whom we can always turn for guidance and support. So I think I said this at the beginning of the episode. I'm not here to be like, there's beings around you, because honestly, like, well, in human design I have an undefined ajna, if you know what I mean with that. All it means is I'm not designed to be certain about anything, but I am designed to share what's coming out of me. And I've been pondering this topic, and what I ponder about is, what does this mean for us if this is true, as I'm feeling it to be true, as we each can connect more to the beings around us, as we each can trust more that we are not alone. What does it mean? And to me, I guess I can only say what it means to me. To me, it's meant that life feels a little bit more on purpose. and at the same time less meaningful. Let me explain. I think that one of the worst things we can do for ourselves is believe that our life is so valuable, that this is the one and only thing, and that we cling to it so much. We cling to things going a certain way. We cling to, even life. Like if we are afraid we're going to get some kind of illness, or there's something that's going to happen to us, of course, it's part of our survival mechanism. But if we can step back and realize that there's kind of a bigger picture, and that maybe we're here to help the human family evolve in a certain way, to me, it's helped me feel less alone. It's helped me feel like everything is happening the perfect way. And that also, when I feel lost, when I feel like I don't understand why this is happening, I can kind of turn around and speak to the universe, speak to my guides, speak to whatever you want to call it, but say, I need some help, and I'm surrendering, and I'm open to receiving, because I know you're listening, and I know that you're going to communicate in a certain way to me what I have to do. And every time I've been able to do this, and very key point, also been able to surrender and say, I don't have this under control, because I shouldn't, because I'm not here to have anything under control. I'm not here to create my life in like a planning way, in like a next year this is what I'm going to be doing, this is how much money I'm going to be making. I'm here to like let life live through me. And so now I'm surrendering, and I'm also lost, and I'm also asking for guidance. And I swear to God, you guys, every time I've done that, I've received guidance 1 day, 2 days, no more than 2 days after. And it's a very clear guidance if you can open yourself up and listen. So I don't know if it's coming from the universal force, from beings that are here helping me specifically, or from beings that are helping us all, or from Abraham, or from whatever it is, or from like my ancestors. I don't know what it is, but I choose to believe in it because it helps me, and because I feel guided and I don't feel so alone. So I hope you'll ponder today what that means to you, what you believe, what feels good for you to believe about this topic, and maybe you will feel inspired to explore what your own truth feels like for you around this topic. Hi again, beautiful soul, and thank you for staying until the end of this episode. Something you may know or may not know about me is that I am a human design specialist. If you are interested in using a tool that will give you access to your soul's blueprint so that you can explore your own truth in your own way and tap into a higher state of being, a more aligned life, a more abundant life, then find out more about working with me in the links attached. Sending you so much love.